I'm Dan McNeil, and coming up on today's edition of the Danny Mac podcast, Steve Young, who is a bona fide NFL insider and a Hall of Famer, will tell you very clearly what's missing from an ownership standpoint in Chicago, something he enjoyed when he was a member of the 49ers. You're not going to want to miss that. Those of you who enjoy playing college and pro football when it comes to the window, let me tell you a little bit about the Bet Rivers same game parlay. Here's what you do. You pick two or more from within the same game, and you can control the odds on these puppies. You can move the numbers to your satisfaction. And if you hit all of them, you earn squares that are worth profit boosts, bonus bets, and jackpots of up to $10,000. It's the same game parlay. It's only at Bet Rivers.
You're now watching the Danny Mac podcast on the Bet Rivers Network.
If you wanted more on the Bears' loss to the 49ers, I've got it for you, and I've got it with a two-time NFL MVP and an NFL Hall of Famer class of 05, Steve Young, joining me on the Danny Mac podcast. Well, so glad we waited to get that one in before we finally connected.
That was really worth
Steve.
it, Danny. That was definitely worth all the effort. My gosh, that was terrible. I remember I was there, and I'm like, at halftime, I thought, I have never seen a more poor effort in an NFL game in like a long time. And I don't think it was, I don't know. That's just my reaction. I don't know what else to tell you. It was like the Bears didn't get on the plane. So the second half was better, no question. But the first half was just, my gosh, I haven't seen anything that bad in a long time.
When you say effort, that's disturbing because that's not execution. That's not an experience in an offensive line. That's want to, and they talked about wanting to go to bat for their interim head coach, Thomas Brown. That didn't bode well.
Yeah, but it's such a weird thing. It's like the 49ers last week against the Bills. I think they had the same problem. So in other words, there is a collective grittiness that you have to decide as a group. I don't think that you have to, bring to a football game, and it ebbs and flows. And the best teams, it ebbs and flows very little. You know what I mean? And the worst teams, it's like a big, huge waves ups and down. And so I think in some ways, I think that probably the intent was, hey, let's go play good football. But because of the disruption, a lot of times it can just the psychic event, the psyche of the team gets affected, and they don't even know it. And then they're out of there playing, and they're like, why are we dragging around? We like this guy. We want to play hard for him. And I suspect what will happen is you'll see a much better effort next week, a concerted effort to the grittiness that I think got away from him yesterday.
Let's hope so. I'm going to take the points against the Vikings next Monday night. Let's give a little credit to the 49ers operating yesterday on a 3-game losing streak without McCaffrey, without the big tackle, Trent Williams. I thought they played very well and had a terrific start to the game. The Bears played terribly, but the 49ers helped contribute to that.
I agree with that, and I think the 49ers made a concerted effort during the week to turn the tide back. We're better than what we showed in Buffalo. We're better than what we showed in Green Bay. Yes, we're hurt. Yes, we're wounded, but we have a good system, and we know what we're doing. And let's quit making excuses. Quit wandering around like, oh, what's happened to us, and take control. I think that they talked about it all week, and then they went and played like it. And so I think if there's hope in the season left, it's in that they can hold on to this kind of. You talk about the psyche of a team, that they can hold on to this kind of performance and that kind of focus on detail and excitement around going and finishing the season as well as they can.
Steve, what optimism do you hold out for Caleb Williams after this rough start to his NFL career? Rough start in terms of where the Bears are at 4-9, but he's had a bit of a recovery. What do you take out of what you've seen so far?
Great quarterbacks in the NFL have to be constantly going through filters. And you just have to pass through every one of them. And what I've always said is even the person who's doing it, even the player, even the quarterback, does not know whether they're going to be able to do it or not. It's something that you have to just work through. And the problem with Caleb is right now, he's not given the opportunity. He doesn't have the support. You need a lot of help to be great. Look at Sam Darnold's a perfect example, right? Is Sam Darnold's he's gonna by the end of these 4 games he keeps playing, they're gonna be talking about as the MVP. And why? How's that possible? Well, because he got the help that he needed. He got the innovative mind to go call great plays. He has good players around him. And now the full measure of who he can be as a quarterback is coming out. So Caleb needs that. Caleb's capable of doing all the things that every Chicagoan is praying that he does. He's capable of it. But do we know exactly how that's going to play out if he has the help and if he has the innovative mind that needs to come in as a coach? And maybe Coach Brown is already there. Maybe he's that guy. Like, we have to see. But that can really bring out the best in him, because every team in the league is going to threaten Super Bowls if they have a guy like Caleb and they have coaches and a system set up to make the quarterback job as successful as possible. And people think, oh, you want to coddle quarterbacks? No, I want to recognize the truth. You're not going to compete in this league unless you have one of these Superman quarterbacks. And Caleb's capable. If he gets all the way there, we'll all learn it with him. But he certainly looks absolutely still possible. He's not a reclamation. He's not a failure in my mind. I would have liked yesterday, when things were going sour, to not just sit. It's the same thing Justin Fields went through last year. I felt like Justin was so earnest in trying to learn the game of throwing the ball in the pocket. They know, look, I know I can run. I know I can make plays, but I've got to develop this expertise. And they overplay it in some ways. Like fake it till you make it a little bit. Like, I remember last year during the year, I was like, Justin, just start run around for a little while here. You'll learn it as you go. And I felt yesterday that's what Caleb, don't sit there. You can go make some plays, make something happen. And that's the thing that, I think Caleb's very capable of that. And in the finishes in the season, he should put his whole body into what he can do. In other words, I don't want to just sit back and try to throw the football. I'm gonna leave early. I'm gonna go. I'm gonna make plays. I'm gonna be Josh Allen. I'm gonna be leaping over people. Like, why not? Let's see if we can't move the football and get some wins, and then learn the really important parts of quarterbacking, as we go along.
Ron Rivera wants the job. He told me last week, very politically correctly, he would love to get that chance, but he did the proverbial, they have an interim head coach right now and a few games left to go. Yeah. But he says Caleb makes the job desirable. And the fact there's only 32 jobs makes it desirable. But the Bears, from a franchise standpoint, have a long history now of screwing things up managerially. And I don't know how plugged in you are, Steve, to some of the behind-the-scenes dealings they have, but it's not a great place. If you're a head coach with skins on the wall, I don't know if you're coming to Chicago.
Well,
what do you think?
Problem. Like, look, at the end of the day, the thing that is not talked about around the league, because think about the hours and hours and hours of analysis that goes on around NFL football. And what do we not talk about? We don't talk about ownership, because ownership doesn't change. Even generationally, it doesn't change. And so I think people feel like, well, why talk about ownership? It's not going to change, so you just have to live with it. But I think we have to, the owners of the Chicago Bears have got to take a hard look at themselves and really recognize that what they've done is not match cohesion amongst leadership and general manager, coach, and then quarterback. Like, those are the things that really matter in the NFL. And like, you have one and then you don't have the other. Then you have two and you don't have the third. And you don't have zero and then you have nobody. And then you go around in a circle. And at some point it has to go back to you. Like, it has to be, okay, what do we need to do? And I know they've made efforts to try to get people in place to be long-term, but until you get general manager, coach, and quarterback all lined up and not hired over the top of each other, that they all, like, look what's happened in San Francisco for now 7 or 8 years. And look at the things that have happened because of it. When you have a general manager, a coach, and a quarterback, and the quarterback has come and gone. We have Jimmy Garoppolo and Brock Purdy and pulled it off. But when you have a general manager and a coach who come in together, who like each other, that they trust each other, that they can back each other, people always say, well, we should call different plays. We should, we need a pass edge rusher. We need a middle linebacker. Like, forget that is all table stakes to getting that thing right at the top. And that's where the Bears have kind of for generations now messed up.
I like where you're going with this because you're spot on. Matt Eberflus was an arranged marriage for his GM Ryan Poles. The timing on their being announced was 36 hours apart. There was no search, and that's been going on forever. What's the worst of what you've heard about Chicago's behind the scenes bumblings? You guys talk, you know things.
Well, you just said it. It's reactionary, right? It's, oh, we need this, okay, get that. And we need this, okay, get that. And then shiny thing over here, go get that. And like step back and build, like take the chance of bringing in a general manager and a coach together that 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 are connected, that they're purposeful, and that they can't. What happens is things go haywire in the NFL every once in a while. Like the 49ers are going through it a little bit in the last few weeks. Like this is supposed to be a Super Bowl season. Now things go haywire. If you're not connected, then you'll begin the zero-sum game transactional relationship that basically says, oh, it's not me. It must be you.
Mm-hmm.
And in the locker room, that is where things devolve so quickly because they sense not cohesion. They're not people that will stand for it. And so you have to, at the end of the day, like any human condition, you have to have accountability. You have to have people that no matter what happens, I'm the one at the buck stop here. The truest truth is it's me. It's me, not the coach, not the quarterback, not the defense, not the field conditions. It's me. And so, and then the coach says, no, it's not you. It's me too. Like that's what the 49ers have right now. John Lynch will not abandon Kyle Shanahan when things get tough. Kyle Shanahan will not cause grief to John Lynch inadvertently or in subterfuge because they're connected, they're committed, and they know that they're mutually accountable. And when you have that, there's nowhere to go when things go badly. There's nothing to poke. There's no one to try to there's no little secrets or whispers in the corner because things are gonna go bad. And then that's when you get pressure tested. And so the Bears have never had an organizational structure that could be pressure tested because there always leaks, right? It always kind of starts to devolve. And I feel bad because they've had good players. And then now with Caleb, it's there. Danny, it's there. You have one of the three legs of the stool. And so make sure that you connect all of these things. And I just think the ownership has to, it unfortunately and fortunately, it ends up in ownership's hands. And there's nothing, we can't really say anything more than that, right? Just please do right. But in the past, it hasn't happened. Let's just pray this time and go around, it goes well.
If Virginia and George McCaskey are listening, who's your recommendation? Ben Johnson?
Look around the league. Look at, okay, let's do the study. Sean McVay in LA, Kyle Shanahan in San Francisco, McConnell in Minnesota, LaFleur in Green Bay, McDaniels in Miami, Andy Reid. Look at the tree, look at the people, why are they successful? Innovative young minds who can speak to the position of quarterback, who can make that guy sing. Because if that guy's singing and he's capable, I'm not going to say it doesn't matter who plays middle linebacker. I'm not trying to say that. What I'm trying to do is elevate a position that is the nature of the game today. It's wide open. It's for the prototype is the Superman quarterback. And if you have it, you have a chance. And then you can build behind it. And so you have that guy right now and find who is that innovative young mind that's like those 8 or 9 guys I just mentioned. And I know they've tried, but that's where, look what happened to Sam Darnold. Why is he all of a sudden really good?
Mm-hmm.
Well, because he's got someone that understands what the position's all about and can call the plays. Because it's not just coaching, it's play calling. It's connecting plays with the quarterback. And it's the innovation. Andy Reid reinvents himself every week. He's 66 years old. Yeah. And he reinvents himself every week. That's the innovative mindset. Kyle Shanahan doesn't sit. Watch this weekend with when the Rams and 49ers play, when Sean McVay and Kyle Shanahan get together, they know it's like cockfight. Like I am the greatest innovative mindset in the world. And the other guy says, I am too. And watch the plays they run on Thursday night. Watch the innovation. Watch the uniqueness. Watch what they come up with. They pour themselves out into this. And then you say to yourself around the league, Who else does this? The teams I just mentioned, and nobody else. Like, what are
Mm-hmm.
we doing? That's the game today. What are we? It baffles the mind that we're still running plays from 2015 because coaches who don't innovate, that's what they know. They haven't seen the game change so dramatically as the rest of the group that I just mentioned. And because of that, and I go back to when people say, what has the game changed? They changed the rules for safety. Defenses cannot launch anymore. And it opened up it basically made the field like a Canadian field. It's bigger, it's more spacious, there's more room. And so if you're not innovative and figure out ways to get people into space and the quarterback himself to go use the space that's been created as the 11th guy out of the huddle, running the ball for first downs, touchdowns that are out there easy, then you're just running 2015 plays and you'll never get there.
God, there's so much more I want to do with you, but I promised you we'd keep this to 20 minutes. Let's do a rewind.
I'm sorry. I don't get out enough. And,
well, you've got a good audience today. You root for guys you grew up watching, and we're only a few months apart. I have to ask you, were you one of the youngest kids in the class of '79, or were you an old kid in the class of '80?
I was an older kid in '80. That's what I was.
Okay, so you didn't get the extra year of Little League like I did.
No, I didn't. In fact, I paid for it too. I was 0 for 40 as a 13-year-old.
I went back and did a little research on free agency and its evolution and how everybody handled it in the NFL, how the teams, mostly focusing on the NFC Central at the time, but Dallas and San Francisco stood out, according to most reports, as to organizations that did it the right way and didn't think in terms in '93 when the ruling came down of, oh, shit, we're going to have to pay a ton. The reaction Carmen Policy had, the reaction they had in Dallas was, we have a standard we have to keep up to. We're going to keep winning and we're going to lose these guys. Was that your experience with DeBartolo and Policy working like you should work to keep that bar as high as it was, seemingly?
Yeah, think about this. Eddie DeBartolo's in the Pro Football Hall of Fame primarily because he was the first owner of a major sports franchise that reflexively saw players as partners. That's how he looked at, like, that's how I see you. I don't see you as chattel at the worst end. I don't see you as an employee. I see you as my partner. And in that spirit of how he owned the team, that's how we felt. And it's so funny, Mac, Danny Mac, even today, Eddie DeBartolo is beloved because we feel like we were partners together. And why did we play so hard for him? Because we were connected. We had shared common experiences. And it felt like he was, he said, look, what do you need to be great? I'll give it to you. Then you better be great. And why were we great? Because of the spirit of the partnership that he built. And it's like, I want to say to all the owners in the league, and others have followed, Robert Kraft studied it and followed it and has developed it. Other owners are trying. I see it all the time, guys trying to connect in the right way. It's not like it's not like, oh, I need more friends or I need buddies down the hall. No, but it's a spirit that we're in it together. We're both accountable. I'll stand for it. If we lose, look at me first. Don't look somewhere else. And that's the difference. When you have that sense of accountability, what happens is if you breathe accountability into the whole system by an owner, then everyone follows on with accountability. Oh, no, it's not just you. It's me too. And the equipment man, it's not you. It's not everyone. It's not the players. It's me too. Because equipment's got to be there. And then all of a sudden it's all the other line people out there doing the job. Guy cut the grass. Oh, it's got to be great. Because, it's not just the owner that's got to be great. I got to be great too. You get that going, and like 300 people in an organization all feeling like accountable. Again, Bill Walsh wrote the book, Score Takes Care of Itself. I don't care what play you call. I don't care what defense you run. You're going to win. So
man, that's strong. That is strong. Tell me quickly about how Jim McMahon helped nurture you when you guys were together at Brigham Young. Jim
McMahon, I love Jim McMahon. I love him in every way you can love a guy. Like he's the best. He was super famous when I got to BYU, and I remember getting in his car when he had 73 NCAA records when he left BYU, 73.
Mm-hmm.
And I remember he was super famous in my mind. And I remember getting in his car when I was a freshman. He gave me a ride back to the dorms or something. He goes, "Hey kid, you jump in the car." And I jumped in, and I remember thinking, what do famous people, what radio station is there? A famous radio station? Because I had no idea what fame was, you know. And I think in many ways, Jim McMahon was the most famous person I'd ever met. What he did for me was that people don't realize technically, as a quarterback, from a technical drop back, throw the football, he was perfect technically. And that was my model. Like, I was wild, right? I was dropping backwards. My legs were everywhere. I was running around, and I learned how to play quarterback from Jim McMahon. I learned how to throw. I didn't know. I spun the ball out of my hand some weird way, and I learned, and I watched him, and I was like, "Oh, you let it go this way." And when I learned that my freshman year, my life changed. And so I told Jim, I told his parents, I told anyone around him, I owe Jim McMahon my career because he was a model for me on the field as a technician, as a he studied, he owned the data. He was classic quarterback. Now you guys at Chicago see him differently because Peyton Walter was there and they asked him to do different things and he got beat up and hurt. But as far as just technical playing quarterback and what he did, there's no one better to follow. Now look, off the field, I didn't go with him very often. He lapped me pretty early on that, you know.
Yeah, I was going to say, I bet the smell in that car was something that was a little unique to you.
Crazy. I've said this to many people. I guess I'll say it here. The craziest things I've ever seen in my life, I saw in Provo, Utah, with Jim McMahon.
Steve, last stop, and I appreciate your time. And I'll write a big check to the Forever Young Foundation for your generosity today. Tell me about what you do for kids, not only in Phoenix, in the area around there, which needs it terribly. I know this with a little brother who lives in Mesa, but around the country.
Yeah, so the Forever Young Foundation, we started it 30 years ago when I was playing. The idea was that we would help good charitable people who weren't great fundraisers, that I'd raise the money and give it to them. And so we've got a lot of charities we've supported through the years, and that's always been in kind of where I went to college, where I grew in the Bay Area here. My wife's from Arizona, but now it's spread out. We do hospital projects and music therapy and recreational therapy units in hospitals around the country. Probably have 15 or 20 of them. We've actually built a hospital and a school in Ghana, Africa, with some support from like-minded people. We're a little group that just kind of keeps chugging away. And I appreciate you mentioning this. We were very, very highly rated in Charity Navigator. Top 10, I think, in the last couple of years, which tells you that no money is wasted and it's very efficient. And, we're very good about our response, our accountability. I guess I made a speech about accountability. I better at least, kind of hold on to that as well. And for the Forever Young Foundation. So we do a lot of good things, and we peck away at our little corner of the world trying to make it better.
Great stuff. Thanks for bringing it today, man. It was great. Great catching up.
Okay. All right, thanks for the therapy. See ya.
You bet. Steve Young, a two-time MVP and a Hall of Famer. I want to thank Randy Merkin, who gets me all of these A-level guests. The top of the heap, he's the one who does it for me on the Danny Mac podcast. The executive producer of the show is Sam Michael. Shane Warren assisting today somewhere in Cleveland, where they're licking their wounds after the Browns came up just a little bit short against the Steelers. Adam Delavitt runs the show for the Bet Rivers Podcast Network, and I'm assisted in a behind-the-scenes capacity also by Troy Mocker and Alex Pastor. Thank you for listening. I'm Dan McNeil.